this part, this Q&A session, which is the second part, or part 2 of our Q&A session for session 4. So we're really excited about this part of the conversation. I'm just going to go back and forth with asking questions for emergency management and also the sheriff's office. Okay, so I want to start with the detention center and question in that area. How many detainees are currently housed at the detention facility?
So currently, at this moment, we have 383. This morning, my 8 o'clock count was 393. But as of Monday, I hit 411 since this is the first time the count has been this high since COVID. So
Does this number include, like, you know how you were dividing out like some of the federal?
it includes the total number that's housed in the facility right now. So we have it broken down into how many feds we have, how many felonies we have, how many people we have serving time, how many SMCPs we have. So it's broken up into those categories. But currently, right now, we have 383.
Got it. And earlier you mentioned you're going to begin having more frequent visitors coming in and supporting the people who are in the facility. And the question next is, how do churches get involved in helping to provide religious services in the detention facility?
So a part of the program services that we offer, they have a religious part, which I had on the PowerPoint. So if you email me, I will connect you to Staff Sergeant Johnson runs that, and there's an application that you fill out with the name of your church. And once you fill out that application, we do a background check on you. Once that come back, then we would set up a time for you to start your religious services. However, keep in mind, before COVID, we had over 100 churches coming in, so they're scheduled, like the Baptists might come on Mondays, and, Catholic might come on Tuesdays, and they're all done in the afternoon. So it's a schedule and a balance so that everyone can get something out of it.
I'm going to switch to emergency management and ask Elizabeth some questions here. Which natural disaster is Durham most susceptible to?
Sure. So that's a great question. So I mentioned that we're top 3 in the state for hazmat, and that is the number 1 call that we receive. I will say for natural disasters, we do get a lot of severe thunderstorms. I know a couple, a month and a half, 2 months ago, we had kind of those straight line winds that came through. Hurricanes, ice storms. Fortunately, we're probably due for one of those. A lot of people, I will say across the nation, a lot of people, are concerned about active assailant incidents because the news highlights them and they're happening everywhere. Definitely something we're preparing for. I know in surveys, a lot of our employees feel like that is our highest risk. Data isn't necessarily showing that, but we are definitely ready for that as well.
In your presentation, you talked a lot about the areas that you work in, and it seems like you are very busy in your division under the Office of Emergency Services. Tell us why there aren't more emergency management department members, and why. So basically, why isn't your department larger?
You know what? I ask the same question every day. So when I came into this role, so I have been in this role a little over a year and a half. I actually came out of healthcare. I'm a nurse. So you can really come into this field from any direction. And this position had been vacant maybe 2.5 years because it's not an easy job. And then it was also following COVID, so a lot had kind of fallen off. So I started and there were 3 of us. I had 2 vacancies. So we have been fully staffed for, it will be a year next week, I believe. So right now we only have 5 positions. I've been approved for another position, but I am continuing to look for opportunities to grow our team. I did request several FTEs in the past budget cycle, but as part of the Office of Emergency Services, they are looking at the overall vacancies. And the way that EMS runs is they have ongoing academies. So they keep vacant positions that aren't truly vacant, that fill the academies. So it looks like our vacancy rate for OES is a lot larger than it is, but kind of from the larger picture, when they're looking for approving FTEs right now, they're looking at overall departmental vacancy rates and what they can and can't approve. So we should be a lot larger. I definitely agree, and it's something I'm advocating for daily, truly. But you know, I'm proud that since I have come on, we have remained fully staffed.
And I'm going off script, but I wanted to say this earlier. They truly are the behind the scenes people. So when you have this many different types of emergency responders coming together for one incident, there has to be that one linchpin that brings it all together, and that's what they do, and the public never sees that. So we can come and we can respond, but when we need additional resources, they're the ones that take all the puzzle pieces and shuffle them around and say, okay, I can make this call for you. I can get these bulldozers. We can get the snow pushed out of the way. We can get extra chainsaws to clear trees. We may be out there doing it, but they're the ones helping us. So I just wanted to compliment emergency management.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, and that reminds me about something else. So when we sometimes have presidential visits in Durham, and so the sheriff's office and DPD are very busy. So we all meet with the Secret Service at different divisions of that to kind of coordinate the overall response. And so our team will support the EOC activation as well as the command post, and then any bogus requests that they have. So for this past visit, they wanted 3/4 of a mile long vehicular wall that was uniform. So they essentially wanted 60-something dump trucks, like immediately. And so we have to fill those resource requests. So you just never know what people are going to need. But a lot of it goes back to relationships, and keeping those relationships and keeping that communication strong. So hopefully, I've only been here about a year and a half, but I have been really, really grateful and impressed with all of the collaboration that's going on. I mean, my colleagues have been phenomenal, and you know, anytime I've called them needing something, they have always followed through with that.
It's great to see that there's the collaborative effort between the organizations. My next question actually is for you, Captain Lane. You had spoken up, and I was actually going to talk about employment, because I think this is what this question is about. The question is, have you noticed any trends on how people decide between being a city or county officer? So I'm assuming between being a sheriff's deputy or choosing to become a police officer.
So obviously working at a municipality, a police department is going to be different, right? So some people gravitate toward that because maybe patrol and investigations is really the main thing, which tends to be a core unit of a municipality. But some people gravitate to the sheriff's office because they like you saw the variety of the different things. One is not any better than the other. We may joke with each other and rib each other, and you know, we do more than you, or we've got more authority than you in the whole county. But it's truly about what the individual officer wants for their career. The good thing, I will say, look, we all age, don't we? So a lot of times people are like, you know, but if I work at the sheriff's office, there might be a couple of more opportunities to take a slower paced position. Because not everything is high octane. Not everything's out there running and gunning. And so I think we have that diversity. It really depends on what the individual wants out of their career.
Well, that's interesting. You did explain well those differences between the two and maybe how a person perceives the opportunity. The next question is actually about connotations about the roles. And the person asked, why are there bad connotations about sheriffs? And they actually express they have some discomfort with that particular role in law enforcement.
Right. And that, you know, you hopefully picked up on how passionate I am about my job, and that is hard to hear. It hurts my heart. I can't answer the questions. You know, any bad connotation that I'm aware of is us always being referred to as country bumpkins, and you know, you're just out in the county. You don't, you know, you're not as, you can't do what the city does. You're not out there responding to the same call volume. Those are the bad connotations I'm familiar with. So when I hear that question. It does hurt my heart, but it's a fair question because it means some people in their life have had a bad experience. And I can't speak to those experiences without having that specific conversation with that person. I know that what I try to do, especially being in training, is to make sure that I'm training people that don't produce that result. And the best thing that I can do is to move forward. And if any time I've been a supervisor in another division where I've witnessed behavior, because cops are not perfect, if that was an uncomfortable question, but you have to sit in your discomfort, right? So if you're not uncomfortable, you're not growing. But if I have an officer that's not doing something the right way, I mean, I'm known as the stickler around the agency. Everybody thinks I'm the by-the-book person. And I'm trying to wrap this up, but it's an important question. So I'm going to take you back to talking about evictions. If you're a 10-year-old child and I'm the person, I had to do evictions on Christmas Eve one year. I had to make people leave their homes. So I'm trying to have the most positive interaction I can have with a child who is going to forever remember me in that uniform, making them leave the house where all their presents were. That's something I can try to be as nice about it as I want to be, but that's never going to turn out good. I can give them a teddy bear, I can give them a sticker. So what? What does that mean? You just made me leave my house. They don't care that it's a court order. But then there are things on the higher level. A lot of times these questions are related to the school resource officers. I'll go ahead and put that out there. A lot of youth have had bad experiences in schools. The problem is most people don't want cops when the good stuff is happening. If a cop or deputy is called, it usually means something is bad is happening, right? So we are thrust into a position where we are having to make a decision that not everybody is going to be happy with the outcome. If it's an assault or a larceny, I have a parent over here who is upset if I don't do anything because their child was perhaps assaulted and their glass is broken. We have done a lot in the school system to take criminal penalties out of how we handle dealing with juveniles. It was a blessing that the state finally raised the age so that we cannot take 16 and 17-year-olds to jail anymore. I think that finally made a lot of law enforcement, it made it click with them like, oh geez, maybe criminalizing behavior isn't the best thing for a juvenile, that it's going to be on their record forever. It's going to affect them getting into college. It was a hard transition to make officers understand, guys, we got to change our philosophy because what we're doing isn't working. But law enforcement had to admit that wasn't working. But there still are crimes that escalate, and you have victims where you might need to file a juvenile petition. A lot of our homicides, a lot of our shootings are occurring from teenagers. I don't want to get too philosophical, I'm getting down in the weeds, but I'm saying there might have been bad interactions, and generally you see it more on the juvenile level than you do out on the street. And to sum it up, I actually have had the opposite. I have had people go, I'll talk to you, but I won't talk to that person in that blue uniform. It actually works both ways. So I'm sorry that was rambling, but I get very passionate about it. You can see, and I can talk to you for hours about it. Go ahead.
Well, passionate was definitely the word that continued to come to my mind. I was listening to you speak and your reaction to the story you told about the evictions, and passion is definitely what I heard in all of your voices whenever you were presenting your stories. And I want to go back to the connection that you all have, the Run, Hide, Fight video where each one of your agencies participated. Someone asked, where can citizens see the Run, Hide, Fight video? That might be a question for you, Elizabeth, or anyone that may be able to answer.
Sure. So it is actually on the county website, so you can find it there. It's on YouTube, so you might be able to search Durham Run, Hide, Fight and find it there. When we first released it, we kept it just internal because we wanted to give our employees the opportunity to view it first, since they were the initial audience. But now that everybody has completed their mandatory training, it is widely available, and we certainly encourage you all to check it out. I will also say that we did actually win an award for the video, which is really exciting. The the individual that filmed the video, actually someone from the sheriff's office, Anne Marie, gave me his contact. He had filmed some videos for them in the cast. He brought in one of his friends, and this guy's camera, I'm just so fascinated. A single lens on his camera was $500,000. And I'm thinking, my gosh, this is a government film, and we are using very expensive equipment. So that might have contributed because the picture quality is very good. But I was really impressed with how well it turned out. And we've received a lot of really positive feedback. So if you guys watch it, feel free to give us some feedback. My kids have watched it, even the younger ones, because I think it's really important that they have that education too.
I was gonna say it's a good video, but I don't know. I mean, it's kind of like an oxymoron to say it's a good video, but it is a quality. It's a quality video. I should say that it's a quality produced educational piece.
Yeah, and I'm gonna give Dawn a shout out really quick. So I mentioned I work with all different departments, and it's really important that we are communicating all the different steps of the initiative. So we worked a lot, and there's a lot of meetings and back and forth dialogue. You know, we're working with the county and with the city, and Dawn did a fantastic job and kept us on track. So thank you. I do want to give her a shout out for that.
Thank you, Elizabeth. You're so kind. So kind. I have another quick question for you before I go to detention. The question is there a resource for civilians in regards to various potential hazards? But I think the question that better connects to our most recent question about the Run, Hide, Fight video is for example, where should I direct a friend if they ask, what should I do if there's an active shooter event? So I guess they're trying to, to connect basically resources. Is there a space where they can find these resources overall in addition to the video?
Sure. So we are actually the whole county is in the process of kind of changing our website look. And I know we've done some internal work with the Office of Emergency Services. Currently on our website, we do have some links and resources to other areas. There's a lot of great material out there. I would honestly say I'm a little partial to our video because it was filmed here and it's by our teams. And like I said, it's general enough, even though it's filmed actually in this building, as well as City Hall, you'll still see some areas locally that look familiar, and the process is going to be the same. As I mentioned, I came out of healthcare, which takes a slightly different approach than Run, Hide, Fight, because you have a certain responsibility for your patients. Even in the schools with especially younger children, there's a slightly different responsibility. But this really gives you the tools where no matter where you are, you kind of know what options you have, and it gives you some tips on how to make that the best decision. So I would definitely refer back to that video.
Got it. Great. The next question is for Major Spencer. I'm going to combine these two questions. The two questions are, can you quickly explain again what IVC is? And then how do you deal with crisis or fights in the jail? So if you can answer those two questions.
Those are some good questions.
I know, right? So IVC is involuntary commitments, and they're done either at the hospital or you can come to the detention center and see a magistrate. So it's if you have a person in crisis, almost like what the HEART program does. But if it's someone, a lot of times we have a lot of older people coming to take out IVCs for their kids that are going through crisis or thinking about committing suicide. So those are the IVCs, and sometimes people just transport them to the hospital. And what the hospital does is come down and bring them to the magistrate's office, and then we feel the obligation with the transport. Yes.
So there's two pieces to it. So if you go to a magistrate and get an IVC, and that paperwork will be given to a law enforcement officer. If it's in the city, a city officer is going to take it. If it's in the county, a county officer is going to take it. They're going to go pick up that person. They're going to take them for a preliminary evaluation at either Duke or Duke Regional, and they're only temporarily there in those facilities. Usually the transport kicks in once that preliminary evaluation has been done, and they're like, oh, they need to be committed to a longer term facility. And then that's when usually That's mainly how it works. And the detention services, just because of staffing, they take the females, and then the deputies take the males.
Captain Lane was all in my head. So, that's why we work so well together. But yes, that one of the things about, IVC, you could be any age. We have transported kids. We have transported people as old as 80 years old. So mental health is really serious. And I think that Durham is really doing a good job with that. In fact, I heard last week that UNC is talking about doing their own ward. And that is so welcoming because right now we used to just go to Butner. But like I said in my presentation, we're going all over the state because all 100 counties in the state of North Carolina is competing for these beds.
The beds fill up quick.
The beds fill up really quick, and especially little kids, because when we get a IVC call on a child under 13, my phone is ringing. Major Spencer, how soon do you think you could get this trip done? And so that is just, when you really think about it, it's really sad that mental health has gotten to this point, but it's really good. And I really push my staff to try to get those kids those beds, because in about 2 hours, that bed can be gone. Okay? So that's a really big piece. About the fights in the detention center. So what citizens don't realize is the stuff that happened on the street, it comes into the facility. So usually 9 times out of 10, if we have an altercation between two detainees, it is because of something that has happened out on the street. And one of the pieces and one of the things, the reason that I put classification on there, because we have an officer that sits down and talks to detainees when they come in. One of the first questions we ask them is, do you have enemies? Do you have known enemies in this facility? Because then we put a do not house together alert in the system. So if you try to put me in a cell, in a pod with Captain Lane, it's gonna be an alert that says that we have a do not.
Do I need to be sitting between you two?
So that's how serious incidents are in the facility. So staff is trained. In fact, this morning I went to subject control and I've been rolling around because we have to stay engaged because sometimes we have to get involved. We try our best not to. Sometimes we can give commands and it's all over. Sometimes other detainees can separate and it's all over. But sometimes we have to physically get involved. So, because of COVID and we're not letting everyone out as much as we have, the numbers have gone down, but we've had some serious altercations.
And I'm sure you were sore after training, just like I was.
I'm still sore.
Well, I had a couple other questions, but we unfortunately run out of time, and I do want to ask if there are any final thoughts as we wrap up from each one of you all, if there are any final thoughts from you about your division that you want to leave with the class.
Oh boy. I think I kind of covered them in the slides, but I do want to thank all of you for your engagement and your interest in what we do. I will say, I love Durham. I'm from Durham, so it's really been, I really think it's a privilege to work here, and I think so highly of the Sheriff's Office and the Police Department and really all of our partners. There are some incredible people here doing incredible things, so it's really appreciate everybody's attention.
Thank you, Elizabeth.
So I will say, first of all, thank you for having us. Because I tell people when I do these speaking engagements that detention services you never hear anything about. And we are the keepers. When police and deputies bring them to us, we have them as long as 7 years waiting to go to court. I have people right now that's still waiting to go to court. So you all drop them off to us and we're the keeper. You know, they spend 2 hours, 3 hours with them, but they're in my care for a long time. So I really do thank you all for the questions, and both of us, I think, gave you a nutshell, but the picture is bigger. It's a lot to what we do. So thank you. Please go to the website, and there's tons of other information.
I echo that sentiment and appreciate the invitation as well, because knowledge is power. And law enforcement can't sit back and complain. Well, the public just doesn't understand what we do. We can't keep saying that if we're not out there trying to explain it. Right. So I don't want to be one of those people that complains that people don't understand. I appreciate that people have interest in it, because this spreads. You're going to take this knowledge home and go, oh my gosh, I didn't realize sheriff's office did that. Yeah, I mean, that's my big takeaway. Knowledge is power, and spread the word. And if anybody ever wants to email me and say, you know, I didn't like something you said, or I'm confused, I am all about communication. And if there's misperceptions, and if there's something I need to learn, it's not just about me giving you the information. It's a two-way street. It's feedback that I need as well. So I appreciate that opportunity.
Captain Lane, Major Spencer, Chief Schroeder, I didn't call you out the whole time. Thank you. I appreciate you all so much tonight. I appreciate that. Thank you all.
Thank you.